Hi, third graders. Today we are going to be talking about realistic fiction. So, if you have your packet along with you, you are going to fill out all these squares. If you do not have your packet with you, do not worry about it. Your goal is to be able to identify realistic fiction. So, I want you to think about this. Realistic has the word real in it because these stories can really happen. There's no fantasy in them. They're realistic. They could happen. However, fiction means fake. So they're real stories that people make up. Okay, so let's fill in our squares. So if I'm going too fast, please make sure that you just pause the video as we go so you can fill in your boxes. Realistic fiction has a character that has a problem. Now we call this a conflict. Remember that a character has a problem. In most stories, there is a problem and a solution. All right? All right, now let's go to our next box. Point of view. These stories are told in first person, which uses the words I and me. They're telling about what you did. Point of view is using I or me. All right. So now, if it's not in the first person, then it could be in the third person. And then they would use stories like they and them. It's telling it like it happened to somebody else, that third person. Okay. So that goes in that box. Sorry, I cannot move it. The computer is being fussy today. Sometimes that happens. That's going to go in that box. All right. And let's do another one. Okay. The characters are like people you might meet in real life. So I'm going to say the characters are like real people. Because it's a realistic fiction, we use the word real a lot. These characters feel real because the story is realistic, which means that it could really happen. The problem could really happen. It could be a problem that people have in their life, and it's either me telling the story or the in first person or third person, somebody else is telling the story. Okay, and the last thing that we have is the setting could be authentic. Authentic. What does that mean? It could be real. Remember, we're talking about realistic fictions. We're talking about the setting could be real. The word authentic means real. Okay, so those are all the components of realistic fiction. When I'm thinking of stories that are realistic fiction, I'm thinking of stories like Junie B. Jones. Junie B is like any other person. Her problems are real. She's like a real person. It's in a setting of a city. Okay, she's the one who's telling the story. So that'd be a good example of realistic fiction. And there are tons of books. Mallory on the Move. Mallory is telling the story, and those are all stories that could happen. Okay, those are good examples. Ready Freddy, another good example of realistic fiction. Ready Freddy is typically a kindergarten who has real problems. He's like a real character, and the setting is at school. So, all those components are realistic fiction. Your learning target is to be able to identify stories that are in this genre.